afternoon, good evening, good whatever, everyone. I like the fact that every one of us was behind the animation except for Brian, who we just watched during the animation. I am Brad Chester, the most technologically sound man in 40K. If you don't like the way the stream's set up today, you could help me because I tried to make 5 people fit and I wasn't ready for it. My mom said she wasn't even mad. She was just disappointed. Everyone, introduce yourself. We're going to stop in the top right-hand corner. That's you, Mr. Brian.
I'm Brian Horton, the oldest TO in 40K.
Jeremy Knotts, the new Lord Commander of the Mayhem GT.
I'm Kyle Treya, the biggest chicken-running demon player on the planet.
Rock?
And I'm Stephen Crawley, and I still enjoy Drukari.
Still enjoy. Kyle, I need to let you know that Lyle says that Heidi is watching in order to support her sister wife.
That's good. Need all the support I can get.
I don't know if this
Lyle doesn't do it.
I don't know if this is an insult or appreciation, but it goes, it's not even the worst you've done. Congrats, Brad. I've set the bar so low for my skills that people are like, it's live. Fuck it. So I was told by Indy that I wasn't allowed to choose this topic today because it was too much like last week's, but I'm glad I stuck to my guns because, man, there was a lot of new shit happening in the meta. We had so many different factions win tournaments this weekend. Woo! Man. I mean, I'll start down in North Carolina. They had some tournament I don't think anybody even showed up for. It was like, 11 or 12 players, guys? Would you have 3 rounds? So...
Just 100 on that, but yeah, it was pretty small.
113 fellas. We had Demons, Dark Angels, Death Guard, and Guard all popping 5-0s over the weekend. 2 of them are right here. Feel like, come on, give me some thumbs, guys. Let's do some of this. Yeah. Who's got 2 thumbs and didn't lose a game over the weekend? These guys. So, tell me a little bit about, we'll start with that. We'll highlight this because we have all of that tournament that matters, right? Just joking, everyone. You're there, they're like throwing tomatoes at me. Fuck you, Brad. Tell me a little bit about this tournament, fellas.
You start, Jeremy.
Sure. So it was 113 players down in Mebane, North Carolina this weekend. Dean Pritchard and the Mayhem GT crew, they put on an awesome show down there. One major highlight is that every table had space. I wasn't butt bumping people. I was able to walk around freely around my table. I was able to make people cry in person. It was great. It was magnificent. We had, a pretty strong mix of lists. I think World Eaters came in around 11% of the field. That was the most represented number there. Most represented army. There was, I think, like 4 or 5 guard players. Handful of Iron Hand players. Dark Angels decided to bring out the Terminators one last time. Our good brother Jamie ended up coming in second with his 42 Dark Angel Terminators, which was pretty nuts. And I feel like this weekend, and this ties back to Jamie, every army that I teched for or game planned for completely avoided me. Desolation Marines, nowhere. Iron Hands, didn't play them. Talked with Kyle for about 35 minutes about round 5 matchup going into Jamie, repaired. So it was just an insane weekend, super proud of the team. I mean, it was 3 out of the 4 top places was DOG.
Yeah, it was awesome.
With Kyle taking it home.
Part of that was Jamie messages me. He's like, what are you going to do against guard? And I was like, it depends. Is it normal guard or is it Jeremy Knox guard? And I was like, oh, good Lord. And then he got repaired. And I was like, ha, you dodged a bullet.
A big bullet of plasma. I promise you. I looked at it, I was like, it's a bunch of storm bolters and cyclone missile launchers. I'm going to just sit there and just pump plasma all day in the open. But I ended up pairing into Inari unexpectedly, and so was able to coach my last opponent in the how to play Inari. He found out the hard way that I know that army like the back of my hand. So
That's such a big, I'm going to ask that on you because see what your opinion is on this. Inari's got a pretty decent win rate, but I feel like they haven't been sealing the deal a ton. Do you feel that if you understand how to play Inari, that the power level of that army drops significantly?
yeah, I think the Inari strength relies in so much jank that your opponent can't really keep up and doesn't really see your tricks and things of that sort. So, like in my matchup, I knew how to play around that incarn, where to make him pop up, where to not make him pop up. My opponent did something very interesting. He rushed me with 6 Shroud Runner bikes. He rushed me with some Striking Scorpions, 3 War Walkers, and then popped the incarn over there after he picked something up. And I'm like, all of this for my mortars and my earth shakers. And then effectively was able to, clean that side of the board and, play around some Harlequin shenanigans. He had a patrol of Harlequins in there, which was pretty interesting. I had played a Harlequin player round 3. We were laughing because we said it was a game of duck hunt. Anytime a Skyweaver went over the wall, boom! And then there he goes. It was like anytime he came over that wall, I was picking it up. Harlequins, they really struggle without that 4-up invul now. And they can't play as aggressive as they once did. They have to really rely on the jank and the fire evades and stuff like that, angles.
I think controversial opinion. The problem is that Eldar is just so expensive now that they don't do anything particularly well because you have to play them and they're not durable.
Well, it's T3 1-wound armies are just tough, especially in a world where mortars and desolators exist. It's just such a terrible matchup, and you can't do anything about it because the super long range about it. So it's very difficult to play into this current meta. Anytime there's a lot of indirect, Eldar does suffer. Basically, any of the T3 1-wound army suffers. Sisters, any of the pointy ears. So it's weird because we had a weekend of about I think 2/3 of the tournaments use the Dataslate. So it was like all over the place. I don't know how much that skews everything, but man, we had a lot of people. I mean, like Wolves won, GSC won, Black Legion won, Demons, Tau, Krons. Krons won 2 tournaments. Ultramarines won, Drakari won. I mean, we had so many factions winning tournaments this weekend in different GTs all around the world. It was, I don't know, I'm excited for this, even though we have like so few weeks left. What do we got, like it's 2 months, but I guess we'll be seeing it the middle of June. But I don't know. What do you think about the meta right now? How did you feel your demons were into the meta, Kyle?
I felt pretty good about this tournament, mostly because like we were still on the old meta, so we hadn't moved to the data slate, and I'd played a lot of the armies that were kind of running at the top quite a few times, except for Dark Angels. I was a little bit afraid to run into them. I didn't really know what my game plan was going to be, mostly but they're just so hard to pick up, and I didn't really want to fight that. But I think demons are really well positioned. We disrespect Desolators, and that's a huge part of the meta right now. You still pick up a lot of stuff, but sometimes 4-ups are just 4-ups, and I prepped to play into World Eaters for this tournament, just expecting to see it, but ended up getting paired into a lot of Desolator Marines, and it's just hard to take stuff out when you have the flat 4s and the flat 3s across the board, and you just can't rend me out or reduce anything. I also want to shout out Dean and the people who ran Mayhem. It was an excellent tournament. I had so much fun. The prize support was incredible. As soon as I saw the axe when I got there, it's this giant corn axe. I was like, oh, I need that. I need to win that.
I need this in my life. I love that.
I hit so many people with that axe today, and it will break skin if you hit hard enough, which gotta be careful.
And we won't be able to have Kyle on later this week because he will be in jail apparently because he's assaulting people with an axe.
They said I could hit them, so fair game,
So Kyle, I actually had questions about your run on the list, right? Because I looked at your list because I've been dabbling in the demons recently, and I was completely surprised because you're leaning really aggressively into fiends. You're only running 2 of the big boys. Tell us about the thought process that went into your list for the.
So I've been on this list for a bit. It's something that Josh Minich and myself have been kind of toying with back and forth. And basically, I'm just prioritizing move speed over most things. And just I'm trying to move into the center of the board and just hopefully I last there longer than you can and just start cutting people off on primary. I take mostly the same secondaries. You know, if you give up stuff like no prisoners, I'm going to take it because I'm going to punch up well. But I'm taking stuff that has 14 and 12 and 10-inch movement just to reach everywhere quickly. I'm also taking the Lord of Change, who's defensively minded. He's got all of the debuffs for like the -1 in shooting, the -1, the -1 to hit, the -1 to wound. He's got the Impossible Robe. Like he's just annoying. He teleports around the board and psychically blows people up. And with the shooting meta currently that we're in, he's super, super hard to remove. So that's my overall idea of the list is to start pinning people in their deployment and then start attacking the edges with either the Lord of Change and the Bloodthirster on the other side, or I just fold them in and I start running the dogs and the fiends inside. To me, it's an easy list to play. I understand the way that I'm like trying to set up for most missions where I'm making physical screens, deep screens with like the fiends, and I've got the one Nurgling unit to try to hopefully block out some infiltrators on one side. But
you have the chariots in there?
I don't.
I was just wondering on that. There's been a bunch of versions of that list, and I think that a lot of them are super valid though. The funny thing is the Burning Chariot actually does some serious damage in hand-to-hand, and people don't realize that until they get hit by it, and they're like, how many attacks does that thing have? What's the damage?
So you're taking what? Reality, opponent specific, and then what's your third usually?
So I was testing a lot of the spoilers into this tournament, mostly because there was a ton of No Man's Land objectives. The missions that we were playing had a lot of them in there, and that's typically what I took. And the idea there is either I move forward, I set up the screens, and I can get it off on turn 1, score a bunch, and then I just focus on cutting you down on primary for the rest of the game, or I just have to turn it on and just start killing stuff, and I'm going to score it at the end of the game once everything is cleared, and I can start dropping infantry units, you know, out, keep my flamers and put them where I need to put them and start moving that way. Reality is basically a free 15 all the time, as long as you count the units and the places and you just move where you need to go, you're scoring.
It's 3 to 4. The fact that it's units and not models makes it so laughably easy to score too.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I see you've got 1,000 models here, but it looks like that's 3 units. Cool. I got 4. So 4 single models too. You're like, good job. But I think Demons is really well posed. We talked about that a lot last week. I think that because they didn't get touched, they've got a really big presence in the meta right now, I think.
Completely agree with that.
So that's a big deal. And I think the Demons are going to look very good going into 10th edition. You know what I mean? Until then, they've got multiple options too. I like the fact that your list was a little bit against the grain as far as like it had a lot of the variations from, because the 2 lists that you see a lot right now are that Slanesh Rush army and then the just all Tzeentch army, and you had a little bit from both of those. I'm in it.
Yeah, the Oopsal Tzeentch is an interesting list. It's something that I've been talking a lot with Josh about, and it looks like a lot of fun. I just I can't rely too much on flamers. My flamers aren't as good as most people's flamers.
The problem is when it gets touched. Like, the all Tzeentch army pretty much just goes, oh, unfortunately, my save is what people like the French call le bad. It's not good. We did test a Tau versus that, and it was pretty funny because between the commander with the thermoneutronic and a full reroll crisis unit, they were just beating up flamers. I was just like, what's happening when Tau's winning in hand-to-hand but losing in shooting? Come on back. You won't fight? Come on, bring it.
Right after the Tau came out, I remember that I was like, I tried to shoot those things out. I couldn't, so I just started charging them from behind walls. I'm like, this is so wrong.
I see Lyle talking in the chat about the Lord of Change into White Scars. We played a TTS game the other day, and he he dusted the chicken in one turn. I was not expecting it, but as soon as he touched it with Terminators, it was over.
Well, they are damage 4 when he's in Soul Doctrine, if he's got hammers on him, so that's a real thing.
Hey, Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about the Iron Hand matchup? Specifically the one you played with Frank. Frank was rolling hot. I think he had only dropped 3 points all event. He was number 1. Then he ran into Kyle, and then the wheels kind of fell off the wagon. He had a really strong list, including couple of storm speeders, multiple grav devs, Meltas in there, 10 Desolation Marines. I'm not sure if he had the Contemptor Dreadnought. I'd have to pull up the list.
He did the character. Yeah, he had the character dread, yeah.
Did he mastercraft the Vengor launcher? Because that's something disgusting that I saw this weekend.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah, so that going into that game, I looked at his list, and we were going on data scry salvage, and just looking at his list before we went into the game, he was a little light on OBSEC units, so I knew it was going to be really hard for him, even with sticky objectives, to spread out. So the whole idea for that matchup is that I'm trying to bait him closer to the objectives as soon as I can, and then just rush him with the speed, because the dogs and the fiends are just going to punch up super hard. They're gonna kill whatever they touch. They might not kill the Contemptor, but they're going to kill everything else. And just the relying on the shooting, the saves for his shooting, and I'm putting everything measuring more than 36 inches away at the beginning of the game, so that I'm not getting blasted if he gets turn 1. And I put a lot of stuff in the warp so that if I did go first, when he's coming to the center of the board to start fighting me on primary, I just overwhelm the center of the board and just collapse it and start pushing him in his deployment and cutting him off basically everywhere I can. And it went in my favor. I got both defender and I got to go first, so I got to place some really favorable terrain for myself and make it so it was kind of hard for him to shoot on turn 1 into me. And then he unfortunately had to come out and fight me in the center of the board. We talked a little bit about him being overly aggressive, which I didn't want him to get completely messed up by the Bloodthirster. Just based on being in no man's land, you can move up and reduce the leadership, and then reduce leadership again with the warp storm abilities. I didn't want to get off like a 6-inch or a 5-inch charge on him and just start picking stuff up. So he had to play a little bit cagey, but I was able to kind of just sweep around on the backside, put I teleported the chicken early, and started just nuking people with psychic, and it was just kind of an unfortunate game in terms of me rolling 4s and 3s to stop Desolators from picking up my girls and my fiends and anything else.
What do you guys? We've got a lot of GW terrain events coming up. We got the Invitational for MCM, or the DOG Invitational. Then we've got Motor City Mayhem. We've got GW Kansas City. So we've got at least 3. We've got a lot of the Northeastern events played on GW terrain. How do you guys think your respective armies play when we go from player place to the GW terrain? Power level goes up, down?
So for my army with NIDS, my power level goes up on the GW terrain because I can shift to a much more melee focused army. Backed up with some shooting support, it actually benefits me to be on GW terrain. That's my opinion.
Knox, what do you think about guard, GW terrain?
It depends. If you're, looking down one of the 3 streets, is what I like to call them, the alleyways. I mean, fair, but I like to run a lot of, long range, direct shots more than I do indirect. I did run an Earthshaker this weekend, and it felt really good. My opponents get shocked when they were hearing, strength 10, AP 3, and then they walk in the open. Now it's strength 10, AP 4 because it take aim. But I think with Richmond Open that's coming up in 2 weeks, they're running GW terrain. I'm taking Kyle's army. So 2 things. I want a change of pace. I've played 40 games with guard, 33-7 with them. And secondly, I like that number 33-7. So I think I just want to, change it up a bit, go more towards a different style of army for GW terrain. If I'm changing up the terrain, I want to change up the army. I don't feel super comfortable going into that type. I know that player place terrain is the most optimized terrain format for guard because you can control a little bit better.
You can set up
your
those
fire
long,
lanes.
yeah, you can set those long A lanes up, and if you win the roll, you can just put that delightful crate in the middle and say, enjoy it. I was just wondering on that because it's weird too, even with the GW train, because I feel like Type 3 favors you a lot, but Type 2 seems bad because there's lots of spots for people to push up and basically punish you for getting angles because you have to get so close.
Yep.
I honestly think GW terrain is really set up well for armies that can do multiple phases of the game. That's why, like, I'm enjoying. I played Drukhari this weekend. I really enjoyed Thick City on it, because you do really good close range shooting, but it's very high power, and a lot of times you can't extend unless you're on layout 3 super long threat ranges. And I think that's why I want to do demons for a bit too, because of the fact that they have good mid range shooting but exceptional melee. They have good enough threat ranges to the point where you can't really, especially when they're using the WTC ruling, you can't just hide forever and always.
I'm going to go real quick before we continue with this because I want to do Eloise's question. Because she goes, playing a balanced army with both melee and shooting is the best way to lose because you're not committed enough, or best way to win because balance is the way to go. It's player style at that point in time. I pretty much only play balanced armies because I'm terrified at all times of not having tools to win any matchup. So I'd rather play decent into everyone as opposed to a lot of players who like to be crush 80% plus of the field, and then they have a terrible matchup versus some things. So it's kind of a, what you're seasoned to taste at that, but I would prefer balanced. That's just my play style.
You honestly, playing a balanced army requires you to have a little bit more, especially knowledge of the fight phase, because you need to be able to exceptionally take advantage of the different aspects of it, of making sure you're locking down things at the right time, making sure that you're charging your maximum distance to be able to take away engagement, stuff like that, so that you can use your forces and leverage them in different wave formats.
How do you feel about GW terrain with the demons? Are you going to make any changes?
Probably not. I think my list specifically is a little bit better into GW terrain. I love player place just because I get to control how I'm moving around a little bit better, but I think my specific approach is really fast, so I'm able to cover the distance in the center a lot, and I can just set up wherever I need to be, hopefully, and then make the charges. And I also get a lot of control on where I'm going to start deep striking my units on GW terrain really well.
You know what? I'm going to go to the wall again. And it goes, I think that it's faction dependent too. Votan feel like they have to skew into one theme because they don't have the model count to play a combined arms force. I'll give you that. Because I feel like Votan, Custodes, even Knight to some degree, have to skew pretty hard. Just low model count armies have to do what they're doing very, very well. So,
honestly, I had a really good amount of luck with Votan with running 2 5-man Berserker squads and the Einer Champion as your only melee threat. So that way you can play a little bit more aggressively with your tanks. And then when they start trying to engage you or lock you down, then the Pinata unloads. And that's a really good counterpunch, and it opens you up for Ancestors watching for 5s, which is nice.
Love it. Josh goes, is it me or does Brad look younger today? Nah, I'm just less dying than I was the last time you saw me. I definitely did nothing. I did do Fireside, so I do want to prep on that again because I'm going to do it at least once a month, probably twice a month, depending on tournaments. Everybody can put, if you're not in the DOG Discord, please get in there. It's an amazing place to be. We love, we laugh, we live. But I just do full question and answer sessions, and I'm going to rotate who's hanging out with me each time. And I literally have a little icon for a Fireside, and then I just chat. So that's coming out. Back to the thing. Crawley, what the hell are you going to play?
That is a good question. So right now, I am practicing for 3 important events, and I am rotating between Thick City, Demons, and Guard. And Thick City has some really, really good strong matchups and some really bad ones. Demons is just an incredible amount of fun and there's so much build diversity that I'm like squeeing when I try to build lists because there's so many different. I'm like, I can do the Bellicor bomb. That was fun. Now I can run also, and I can't pick a build. And then guard, I have to say I love my triple Dorn list because people don't know what to do into it, and it's so much fun. So I don't know. I don't actually have an answer. I'm waiting for Brad to slap me upside the head and tell me.
This is the guy that's on my team. He's like, what are you playing? He's like, I have no idea. Who's doing pairings? Brad is. I got 4 armies and a question mark. We're going to win that event because apparently Crowley's going to bring whatever army does well against whatever we pair him into. He's like, let me see your list real quick, and you will be playing this. Thank you, sir.
It's like when I play StarCraft, I play random. It's like, how do I build into random? I don't know either. We're going to find out together. No. I honestly don't know. There's so much good stuff. We're in such a good balance mode right now. I don't feel compelled to play anything, and that feels
Dude,
good.
I'm super psyched after the weekend. Just looking at the results, just so many things won. I just love that right now. So I was worried that we were going to have a really guard GSC meta, and maybe we will, because like I said, we didn't have everybody using the data slate. It was about 2/3. So we'll see on that. I'm going to go to Heidi. Asking for a friend. What is the best army against both World Eaters and Demons? I'm going to go around the clock here. Around the horn. Everybody gets a minute. Brian, go.
GSC.
Wrong.
GSC.
Knox, go.
Brad, I don't even know right now. But against World Eaters, guard picks them up really well. Deploy on the back line. Demons, ask Kyle. He took me out at Mighty Meeple, so can't say that guard's good against demons.
That's a good army, period. Against World Eaters and Demons, Kyle.
I'm gonna say you play War Machine into both of those, and you just don't play the game at all.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I like where you're going here. You might have a model disadvantage, though. War Machine's got a lot less shit on the board. Crowley, what do you got into those?
City.
Thick City.
Well, it just picks up shit wholesale, and both of those factions. So basically, your GSC matchup is if you go second, you just basically auto win because it becomes I'm not going to play anything forward until you put your shit on the table, and then Twin Liquefiers go burn, pick up like everything. Spirit Probes go burn, pick up like everything. And into Demons, it's, I don't know, it's just hell. Roll 5-ups.
I want to point out that the friend that Heidi is asking for is Lyle, because those are the armies that I play, and he just wants to spank me on TTS.
I'll Thick City, try my build. Have a good time.
Yeah, and Crawley, I need that list. Matter of fact, I got 9 Talos and 3 Chronos saying, "Hey, put me back in the game, coach."
I put a bunch of those together, actually, Crowley. After we talked about that, I made that list so many times. You got me mojoed on it. I think that you need enough trash this time, though. I think it's a little bit more trash dependent because of the meta than before.
I need another boat with some incubi in it, and then a couple more 5-man, so I can open up R&D a little bit better.
I think that you need some Venoms. The list that I was happiest with had 2/3 Venoms in it, and a shit ton of more racks.
But it's just all weekend. I cannot stress enough. Like, if you played Thick City during the thing and you understand the Spirit Probe, reroll 1s, and you're basically auto-wounding everything in the game, like worst case scenario is on 4s, it just feels so good. Like, I picked up dude's tanks wholesale, and he's like, nobody's killed 6 guard tanks in 1 turn before. And I was like, first of all, you've not played in the tower recently. Second of all, welcome to Thick City, where I am D6 plus 3 damage with each heat lance that goes through.
Pew pew.
Bring up the board. The F around and find out.
And I mean, every time you get one of those the Talos to kill something, you put them on power from praying turn max. So you get your +1 to hit and your 5 up.
That's such a big deal. That strat is nuts, by the way.
It's freaking fantastic. And they're like, oh no, I killed 2 Talos. And then I'm like, oh cool, my Chronos are going to charge into these 3 squads of guardsmen. Shame if my 2 Talos were to come back.
You know, I want to go to this for while Lyle asked, because I actually played around with this. Lyle goes, when are we going to see 9 broadsides? I don't. And this is why. I don't think it's terrible or anything, but the thing is that the unit that's not full rerolling doesn't feel good at all. So that unit that's got full rerolls and is buffed by long strike, because like even with just like rerolling ones and stuff, the crisis suit brick feels like halfway decent. You know what I mean? You put a couple marker lights out there, but you also get more mobility. You get to shoot exactly where you want to. The broadsides like are kind of forced to have good rolls because they're shooting direct and then they're dumping indirect on people, and they really need those full rerolls. The other units felt like really meh. I tried an army with 6 of them, and every time I fired the other 3, it felt like, merp, oh yeah, this is why we weren't taking them when they lost core.
I mean, honestly, the problem that you run into with them is they require line of sight and they're slow, and they need support. Your crisis brick wants support too.
The crisis can work a little bit better without support just because of the fact of huge movement, and they can get to things that they want to just chip and then fire and fade. You can't strike and fade with broadsides. So like you can just shoot the crisis and bounce. You know what I mean? And even if you didn't do great damage, you still get the hell out of dodge.
Can you not, or is it just a bad idea?
You can't. Broadsides cannot use strike and fade.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Like they need to be able to when you're basically gonna barely peek your guns out, but like whatever you shoot needs to die, you know, because that's the whole reason you're kind of shooting one flank. So it just the other unit just without rerolls just felt like meh. I mean, that's the whole reason they weren't being taken when they lost core was because of that, you know, not having access to core strats, rerolls, pluses. You know what I mean? It was just a big deal. I'm getting that back. I feel like you only can support the one unit. That's just my opinion. Like a lot of at the end of it, people were bringing like solo broadsides and stuff. I think we might see that again. So I do think 3 is just 3 is the way.
3 is perfect.
The Brad Space Wolf Coast to Coast is going to start at the Invitational and continue until they bring 10th edition, and then we'll see how they look at that. And then if it's an all vehicle meta, I do really want to, whatever army lets me take the best Centurions out of a repulsor is really what I want to do. Because those guys popping out of a repulsor clown car style makes me so happy because they're so gigantic. You're just like, 1, I don't know how you got in there. 2, surprise, motherfucker.
By the way, if there is anybody here that is super comfortable with conversions that I can get to do the Primaris Centurion conversion for me, ping me. I want to give you monies.
Want to give you monies. Here's the question. Out of everybody here, not including me, of course, who can get an army together the fastest? If you decide you want to play something this weekend, who could get it? Not borrowing, just making an army. Who's the fastest modeler painter?
Mike Walsh. Remember 2 weeks ago we were talking about he should play GSC. He was in the shop. What was it, Kyle? We were practicing maybe Friday or Monday. And then he had it fully painted and based by Saturday in the GT.
That's so
It was irritating that how quickly he got that together.
4 hours a night, I can get an army done in a week.
Yeah, I can get a full 2K army done from boxes to painted in a week.
It's a crazy people. Love it. I love it. Crowley, he's insane.
Michael Irvin has been in many of a chat of me posting, oh crap, I have a major GT this weekend in 3 days and these models are not.
Also, Zoom's apparently calling you out. He goes, I just took a Sylvaneth army from boxes to tabletop in 33 hours. And he never went to sleep.
He did a that was my stuff, and Zuber did a phenomenal job on it. I got to give him a ton of credit. It was one of the armies that I'm like, I want to play this, but I don't have time to do this one because I'm doing other things. And the people who play AOS at the store are like, come on, Brian, play a game with us. And I'm like, all right, my army's not really fully painted. Well, now it will be, so it'll be nice.
Love it.
Actually debating stripping and redoing all of my Marines with all the advice that I've gotten from a bunch of good painters over the last year, especially Brian. I think it's time.
See,
I just say buy new Marines. I've run into that problem.
I have like 10,000 points in Tau and Marines. I cannot just rebuy 10,000 points in Marines.
I mean, you shouldn't. do that. You could do that though. I'm looking at these results, man. I'm excited to see 10th, but I'm not excited for Index Hammer. But I'm also pretty excited. Like if they were like, hey man, Gremlins stole all of our data and we can't do 10th for a while, I wouldn't be sad. I'd be okay playing the rest a little bit longer in 9th. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm gonna miss it. Honestly, I feel like it's the ending of an era. I mean, 9 is a significant number. It's always the ending of cycles, and I feel like we're about to go into a new way of playing 40K. Like we got new data sheets. We're scrapping the old thinking, building a new world, and I'm just not prepared to make that transition yet. Like I feel like I just hit my stride in 9th. I think I got significant reps in. There's not an army that I'm not afraid of. There's rule mechanics that don't trip me up. I think the balance is as close as we're gonna get, minus some demons and world eater secondaries. But I welcome change. Everyone fears change. I think that shifting to it feels like a new game system, honestly. And so I think it's going to be a refresher for a lot of us OGs. It's going to give us that spark back.
I'm just excited with you saying that because I'm ready for the people that only played 8th and 9th to completely fuck up and think that a rule is something that it used to be, which I do consistently because I've been in so many editions.
I mean,
Babies to grow up.
I've enjoyed 9th. It's been fun. It's been an interesting ride. It's been up and down all over the place. But I really, really, as a TO, want the change because I want to level that playing field out a little bit. Although the good players are still going to be the good players and still make the right decisions, a lot of the people who are the mid-table guys will have to adjust. Ooh. And it'll give a little bit of time for non-net lists to exist. And what I mean by net lists is, somebody seeing a lot of like Brad's list or Steven's list or Kyle's list or Jeremy's lists and copying them and mimicking them. When you go into those first couple GTs,
they change so much, dude, because everybody's flirting. You know what I mean? Because you could be my list, Jeremy's list, Carly's list, Kyle's list, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, man, that was I used that shit a week ago. Why are you bringing up old shit, man? I'm onto something new. I got a new idea. I am going to pause real quick because I'm a lore junkie and they drop some bombs and stuff. Zach, I'm sad to say that Salamanders got caught up in the murder curse and some shit's going down with them. They are not going to be happy good guys. But we'll get into more of that later. Go ahead.
Honestly, beginning of 9th, Indomitus box era, even when the Space Marine Codex came out, there was like 6 or 7 builds that were successful. It wasn't until like October, I think, when White Scar started taking over, and that only lasted until the Death Guard book came out in December, right? We didn't have a set meta for like the first 4 months, right? 5 months. Like everybody was still trying everything at that point.
Mm-hmm. It gets pretty wild on that.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is where I can go, and I'm just excited because I'm going to get a Wing Tyranid Prime.
No. My Tyranid Prime model is so much better than that. I'm going to buy that kit and just magnetize my kit because I did a Broodlord conversion. That model looks like that AOS chick with the vampires with like the wings all broken down, and I'm like, this is not a Tyranid Prime. Where's the wingspan out?
I don't like the wings down. I don't like where they put the wings in the bottom joint as compared to the top joint where everything else has been.
Yeah.
So it's a little strange to me, but I think with a little bit of work, that's going to just be a cool model. And I like getting a new HQ that does something different. I like that mid-level HQ because right now, the only mid-level HQ the Tyranids have is the Neuranthrope, and he's, good at one thing and one thing only.
Warrior Prime was actually really good for the first, I want to say, after the first nurse, after Malin Scepter died the first time.
Okay.
That Tyranid Prime was good because it was giving you another HQ and it had a decent buff on its own so that you could do the reroll 1 Zora on the the Warriors and when Warrior spam was being a thing.
Yeah, but once Warrior spam went away, which
that was the day that the Tyranids died. So,
as someone who won a couple events with Warrior spam, yeah, I understand.
Spam.
I think that new Tyranid model is horrendously ugly.
Really,
Yeah,
I
not
like
just
the
ugly, horrendously ugly.
It's
You
a
know
bad
what?
sculpt.
On that-
I want to stand by that.
I'm gonna say the person that might get hit the worst on this. How do you feel about us getting a new edition as you're just coming back? You're literally getting your stride, winning a GT, and then you're like, I feel like I've really got it together, guys. And then you're like, how about a new rule set? Boom. What do you?
I'm usually pretty pessimistic, but Lyle has got me switched and excited for 10th. So I'm excited to see how things change, and I'm just gonna have to adapt and learn something new and not lean on a giant blue bird all the time.
I can't leave.
What is everybody the most out of what we've seen so far and what's been officially spoiled by GW? What's the thing you're most excited for from the base rules so far? Start with Kyle.
Sorry,
Kyle,
who?
you go first. I got
Kyle first.
Oh. I'm excited to see toughness go up a lot. I'm also excited about plunging fire, which we talked about on Thursday, but mostly I'm excited about the toughness. I really want to see what happens with knights and any big thing early.
Crawley?
First question, Kyle. Do you honestly think you're going to find any tables with 6-inch terrain so that you can use plunging fire?
So much plunging fire, yo.
Yeah, I'm going to revolutionize plunging fire.
Okay. I'm gonna my POs.
All of his bases have like 3 inches underneath them. So I'm just
gonna bring little baby ramps to my TOs events. Like, can I put this on the second floor so I can actually use plunging fire? Honestly, the transport rules, because I think that we're going into a vehicle heavy meta, and it's actually exciting to see transports doing something engaging. And being able to move and empty out and shoot afterwards, I think helps with one of the biggest problems with GW terrain for shooting armies, which is it's so TO dependent on how those U's are set up. Some of them are shooting galleries, and some of them are, oh my god, I will never shoot anything forever and always unless something comes out. And I think that helps a lot.
Forever and always.
Jeremy?
So I'm a huge fan of the new durability boost for transports and tanks. I mean, I really love the idea of mechanized infantry. I really wish I could, they would nerf born soldiers so I could run mech infantry. I also like the idea of a big tank company. I mean, I have maybe 20 limit rusts over here. So I would really love to get that back on the field.
And Brad?
Characters joining units again. Fuck aura abilities.
You say that as if lone operators aren't going to have aura abilities.
Screw you! Don't ruin it. He said out of things that are out so far, they have not seen that completely.
I don't know. Lone operator scares the shit out of me because of the fact that it's like, hey, I can get shot within 12 inches. Because there's not very many characters out there that can just do that, and mobility is so high right now. Like, I don't know that you're going to see very many, if any, lone operators. If it's just literally just a blanket, if you're within 12, you shoot them. We might go the way of AOS where characters just freaking die all the time.
True. I do like Dean. He goes, Kyle's just going to bring a Fortress of Redemption in all of his list and not remove any table terrain. Just literally lay it on top of it so he always gets plunging fire. It looks like my battle's 20 inches up, it looks like. I'm good.
So with plunging fire, do sisters get some advantage with having the very tall sanctum?
Oh, God.
Second floor, 6 inches?
Yes, it is. That is above the.
It is
huge.
huge.
There's 3 floors on that.
Yeah, it's 9 inches up.
I honestly hate that they made it 6 inches. They should have just made it 5 inches. Like, they know how the terrain is designed, and they know that trios are going to make it so that you can attack the second floor. It should have just been 5 inches. Like, somebody at GW was like, nobody will ever use this.
Look, man, the girls wanted the extra inch, and they got it.
So somebody this weekend was talking about putting a Vindicare on like the 3rd floor because there's like some of these buildings that have it. And it's just the sniper shooting from up top, and I was like, yes, that's great. Until you realize that he can get shot from everywhere on the table.
The Vindicare is literally the Diet Coke of assassins.
Currently, He was bad all this edition, so that means he's going to be fire next edition.
So that's the thing that I had a large group of people in the store today, and they were like picking up stuff. And one of the guys was like, I need to get a Razorback, and I definitely need to get a Land Raider. And he put them on the counter and picked them up. And I was like, what sparked you to get this? He goes, besides the durability of the vehicle, these have been awful for 4 years, so you know they're going to be straight fire in the next edition.
I do not fault that man's logic. I mean, we've seen it this entire edition.
God, if you were too good for too long, your model is so fucked for a while. Sorry, I'm petting my Dark Reapers right now. Magad Ra, the Dark Reaper's like, are we getting in the game, coach? You're like, yeah, we'll call, buddy. We'll call you. You know, stay by your phone. You might get that call any second now. Like, get out of here.
And
I was like, I laugh because, you know, like one of the guys was like, what's going to be good for Tyranids in the edition? I'm like, well, probably some of the new models will be really good. And he was like, but what about the horror specs? Is the horror specs going to actually be playable? And I'm like, well, it hasn't been, so since it's been out.
I don't know, dude. That's the same codex where the Trigod wasn't taken for an entire edition and it got nerfed and the points increase. Again, that dude was watching TV going, what? Boom! Punched in the face of the points nerf. You're like, why?
I still say it's because I took it to that one event and went 3-0. And people were like, oh, that's actually a good model. And I went,
nerf
no.
it. Just nerf it.
And I got sick and had to go home before I could play the next 2 games. But
you had to play that model by using an Indiana Jones hat because you went down in the old tomb to find it, dusted it off.
I had people like, can I see the data sheet for it? I'm like, oh, here's the book. And they were like, why isn't anybody using this? And I'm like, well, because they're really over point costed and not that efficient. I was like, they're not bad, but they're not good. And then,
I want to see more Tantalus. Tantalus everywhere.
Fuck you.
I so want a 3 Tantalus list to work.
You said you could win an RT with anything. Go win one with Tantalus.
If I will show up to any RTT that brings 3 Tantalus just to destroy that person and then leave.
I will let you know when I'm going to go do this because I'm going to take Kyle's thing as a well, I can't get 3 Tantalus in time. I will do at least 1 Tantalus if Brenton comes through with what we were talking about. I can't I can't get 3.
I'm showing
I think
up
Dark Technomancer Tantalus would be really spicy.
what do you need to get 3 for, Steven? I might know someone that has 3.
I just want to say,
it's
an 18 wound model with a 15-inch sail. It's always seen. You're like, I'm going to shoot the Tantalus. It's right over there because apparently fucking Captain Jack Sparrow's on it and they've got it full mast right now. This is such a stupid model.
Like at that point, you go over the top and extend it even more to make it even a larger thing and put a flag that says "Shoot me."
Bro, I'm gonna get 3 Pirates Queen Scar models from War Machine and put them at the cockpit with the holding the thing, and then I'm gonna play he's a pirate whenever I start turn 1.
The first person to win an RTT with a 3 Tantalus list, I will send you a beautifully written poem. Just putting that out there.
Is it written by ChatGPT or by you?
It'll be a combo.
I'm so...
All right, I'm on the way. Let me go get my 3 Tantalus.
You know what? I'm just giving you I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. I couldn't find my "Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby." KR went, Brad wants Flyers to dominate again. Oh, don't make me go on a hour and a half hate-ridden speech.
Wow, you have just made my day. What if during Tantalus, if Tantalus can hold Kronos in them, and then you can use them with the new rule for firing decks, so I can shoot my Dark Technomancer Kronos out of the Tantalus.
Only if you model them hanging off the rigging of the sail. Then I will accept the Tantalus is awesome. If you have a crew of Kronos, we're working it.
Just like all what was the Matrix, but it was like Matrix 2 or 3 with the little robots like using their claws to come out, so the Tantalus are like wrapped around the bow and everything, holding on one on top of this thing to make it even taller.
God, such a stupid model.
So what's everybody got coming up this next weekend? Brad, what do you got going on next weekend?
I'm going up to Anna's. I'm doing a class on Friday. I'm going to drink way too much wine, and then we're going to play in an RTT. Tom and I are going up there. I'm hoping Tom's getting me early enough so I can be on time for the class, but who knows? We don't do those things called planning. That sounds crazy.
So Crawley, what do you got going on next weekend?
R&R and getting demons painted because I might have to play demons. Dick City's already painted and Guard's already painted, so I'm already set there.
Kyle, what do you got going on?
There's no tournaments around, so I'm gonna go to the zoo and look at turtles.
Nice. Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm taking a break from tournaments this weekend. I'll probably lock myself in Walsh's dungeon, and we're going to practice this demon list and everything possible. So probably get a lot of practice in for the Richmond Open.
Jeremy actually has to prepare for the next season of Stranger Things as he's slowly disappearing into the Upside Down.
Yeah, at least with the demons, I got to think. With the guard, I don't even have to think. I just show it to GT after not playing for several weeks and just go 5-0.
I just want you to know that when you said I was going to the zoo and I'm going to look at turtles, I thought those were two different things at that. He's going to actually go to the zoo, but bring his own turtles and just look at them while he's there. That's where mine went for what you're going to do. Like, man, can we get this guy to leave? Also, I don't know if he's allowed to have turtles out on the tables.
Kyle, just make sure Splinter gives you permission to take the 4 turtles with you, okay?
You know what
I'm gonna bring turtles in regardless.
Okay, we've got a couple minutes left, and I have something that I need to talk about because I saw Zoob say it as one of the models. Is there anything that has more variations of the same fucking model than a lieutenant, Space Marine lieutenant? I'm pretty sure there's 2.8 billion of them. I may be wrong.
I mean, if we go all the way back to the beginning of Space Marines, the Space Marine captain has way more variants.
I actually argue that the chaplain may have way more variants.
No.
Then the random dude, go look at the site right now and look at the amount of special edition, jacked up, idiotic lieutenants there are. Like, this guy's got a shovel. This guy's got a glow stick. There's rave captain lieutenant.
But GW does this because, like, the lieutenants, they came later with all the variants. Like, previous, it was the chaplains that had all the variants. I mean, I have, like, 2 collector edition chaplains. I got Blood Angel chaplains, all types of stuff.
I'm not talking the name
Dreadnought.
That's true.
7 or 8 different models of chaplains in power armor and 3 different ones in Terminator armor. I approximately have about 20 to 25 different captains.
I'll give you that.
Because there used to be captain with power fist, captain with power first with plasma pistol. Like, if you look at all the metal ones that came out over the years, it was insane because every equipment was different because they were all single pose mono cast captains. There is a metric shit ton of them.
Also, we do need to do this real quick.
Happy birthday to Brandon.
The Moo Lord's birthday. We need to give the Moo Lord a shout out.
Are we gonna say? Can we sing "Happy Birthday"? Is that a thing? Will that make our listeners be obliterated? I'm doing it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, you cow-loving Brandon Valley. Happy birthday to you. That's how you end a cast, everyone. I'm out. That's it. That's all I needed. Later.